Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. This past weekend, I read 4 books. These 4 books. Now, these are 3 novellas and a whatever this is. This is more like a pamphlet than a book. I think I read it in about a half an hour, 40 minutes, something like that. So I don't know that I would call this a book. However, my kid asked if I would call this a book, and I said, well, it's technically, this is a hardback thing. It's got chapters. If this is how long my book turns out being, then yes, absolutely, this is a book. I've said that the project that I'm currently writing is, I'm not setting a word limit. I'm not saying it has to be a novel-sized book. I'm saying it's going to be a book. It's going to be a physical thing that you'll be able to hold. Will it be this size? Will it be this size? I don't know. I don't care. I think that's the point. The point is I want to make a physical book. It doesn't necessarily matter how big the story is. I'm more concerned about learning about the publishing process. However, so these have all been saved on my bookshelves for a while because when I'm in the process of trying to write something, which I am, I like to try to find examples. So these aren't necessarily style examples. These aren't genre examples. These aren't examples in a traditional sense. So I'm writing a sort of horror, thriller, mystery, kind of tropey. Kid goes away, comes back years later to help. His town has been changed, and there's a mysterious group that's doing. It is the tropiest thing you'll ever read. And so I haven't been reading those types of stories. Instead, I've been using film and television stuff for a couple of years now, or for a year now, to kind of help seed a lot of that, or actually audio as well. So I've got a lot of inspiration from other media. But these I wanted as reference for the length of the story. Because I have a feeling, if I'm being honest with myself, this is Legion's Skin Deep, a novella from Brandon Sanderson. This book is 206 pages. That's including introduction, epilogue, all that sort of stuff. And I have a feeling that my book will come in somewhere around 200 pages, between 200 and 300. I don't think it's going to be a big production. It's going to be a small little thing like this. We'll see, though. It could balloon. I have found that I am writing a lot more descriptively than I normally would. And I don't think I'm padding word. I don't think I'm trying to pad my word count. But I am being a little bit more descriptive. So I read these, and I want to talk about them. These two are kind of there's an actual third story in this series, and the 3 combined are basically a novel. This is Brandon Sanderson's Legion. The first story is a very small book. This is just maybe 100 pages, not even 100 pages. An hour or 2 to read or something like that. Very small, very compact story about a man with not necessarily multiple personality disorder, but something like that. And it's a little bit of a thriller style. And so I guess for these 4 things, these 2 fit my story's genre better because these are thrillers. These are not Brandon Sanderson's traditional high fantasy. This is a sort of modern setting with a character that has some special abilities, but it's not necessarily magic. It's a different kind of magic, right? It's not magic. And so these were good case studies for the thriller aspect of my book. But the main point of these are, as a writer, I'm thinking, okay, if I'm writing a book that is 200 pages, That's like, say, 20,000 words. At what point do I need to hit what story breaks? Like, you've heard of the 3-act structure, right? You've heard of setup, whatever, the middle, and then the conclusion. The 3-act structure is a very normal Western way of telling a story, and it feels good, and it there's progression, that sort of stuff. But there's also generally other beats happening. There's other steps along the way. Those 3 acts they're sub acts basically. And so I was reading these, studying when those beats happen, because they're obvious when you start to research this stuff. They're obvious. When does it happen? So at what word point, at what chapter, at what page do I need to hit some mark? Or more importantly, in my particular thought processes, because these all are very different length stories, is what percentage of the book is dedicated to each act? What percentage of the book is a beat? How that particular key in the story, the main character receives the truth. How long is that? Is that 1 page? Is it a chapter? Don't know. So anyway, this is meant to be a review, and I've talked for 6 minutes just about me, of course. Legion, skin deep. If you like Brandon Sanderson, I haven't read the 3rd story. I have ordered the book. I've had these for a little bit. I don't have the book that has all 3. If you like Brandon Sanderson, you probably won't like this. This is very just dime store novel-ish, just basic story. It does have a little bit of Brandon's flair, but it's very outside the realm of normal Brandon Sanderson. I enjoyed them. It's a little juvenile. They're a little underwritten, would be the way I would describe it. But I did enjoy them, and I will read the 3rd part when I get it, and I will probably feel good about it. I felt good about both of those. I feel I feel somewhat invested in the character. I don't know necessarily that I feel invested in the premise that the character, you set up a story is sort of an you kind of set up a theorem or you propose something about your character that by the end of the story will be changed or will be learned or used or whatever, overcome. The premise of this is that the main character is objectively crazy, like multiple personalities and all that sort of stuff, but the character says, I'm not mad. The character says, I'm not insane. And that's kind of, I don't necessarily care about that aspect of the story, but whatever. The 4th thing that I read is also a Brandon Sanderson story. This is Long Chills and Queso. Apparently this is something that he wrote in college, and he really enjoyed it, and he wanted to someday figure out a way to release it, so this was part of the Kickstarter year of Sanderson. You can see it's a tiny little book. Like I said, it took me like a half an hour, 45 minutes to read it. It's not a lot. There's not a lot in this, but it's also kind of not a great read. It's okay. The premise being that the main character, this is like in the future, like 2150, somewhere around there. The mob is back in control. Basically, police are just bought and paid for bodyguards for the rich, and so the mob is back in control. So this main character kind of leaves the police force and becomes a noir detective, like embodies old film, television media, and speaks in that noir way, and calls people doll, and smokes cigarettes even though they're only 0.01% nicotine now or whatever. There's no cars, there's all this, like, it's just weird. Whatever. I enjoyed it because it's silly. I did not enjoy it because it's a good story. It's a very silly story. It's cutesy, but whatever. The last one is Patrick Rothfuss's new story called The Narrow Road Between Desires, originally called The Lightning Tree, which he expanded added like 15,000 words to it, turned it into a novella. This was fantastic. This was a fantastic little book. I'll probably read it again. It was that good. It's a story about Bast, who's a fae. If you don't know the name of the wind, it's not important. This book is a very standalone sort of story. I think that it's a very childish story, meaning that it would be good for children. It's a traditional kind of Irish Celtic fairy tale, like a fae story about the fae realm and what they're like. It leans into, the fae will come and take your children. The fae are not trustworthy and whatever. Very cool book. Very, very cool book. It's a very no stakes kind of story. It's really just like it's almost voyeuristic. It's just a day in the life of this character Bast. And it's extremely good. I think that this will be read to my future children. I will encourage my youngest to read it. I don't know that it'll be her thing, but I will encourage her to read it. I think it's a very, very neat story and very well written, obviously. If you know Patrick Rothfuss, his writing style is very... His prose is very poetic, sing-song. So, 4 books, 4 days. Good little study in what smaller stories look like, the shape of them, and are helping me. I have so far achieved my non-existent writing goal for the last couple of days. I've been saying that I am not setting a word limit on what I'm going to write each day, but I would like to hit a minimum of 500 words a day. And so far, I've done that every day. So I'm going to keep that going. And I have plenty of steam. Like there's nothing bothering me about this story so far, which is excellent news. Because when I get bothered, that's when things start to fall apart. So, if you're a reader and you have recommendations for smaller books, especially novella to novel sized, mystery, horror, thriller, that sort of stuff, please let me know. I'm looking for more to read right now. I'm currently reading a book. I'll probably finish it tonight or tomorrow. That's and I have one other thing queued up, but I need to keep my mind going on studying these books as I work on my story. So, yeah, put some stuff in the comments. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is tenacious. It is an adjective meaning persistent, stubborn, or obstinate. Women are tenacious, and all of them should be tenacious of respect. Without esteem, they cannot exist. Esteem is the first demand that they make of love. Yeah, it's that guy again. Honore? I don't know. De Balzac, a French novelist and playwright. Tenacious. Tenacious. And here I was thinking that Tenacious was a band made up of Jack Black and whatever. I was dumb.